Variants, welcome back. It is Wednesday, it is hump day, and we're on our way to the weekend. But before we get there, it's time for another edition of WhaT's, TrainWreck, WaTching. And unless you've been living under a rock, you know for the past month and a half, we've been breaking down Disney Plus's Loki. So let's get them in here. Our analysts, we got, of course, the Majka Man, and of course, don't call him the X-Man, Casali Files. Welcome to the building, gentlemen. Another season of another Marvel series in the books.
Jeez, I mean, and what a finale we got. There is so much to break down with today's episode. It was just so good. Everything I wanted, everything I didn't even know we were going to get. I was proved wrong while watching this episode with previous thinkings of what's going to happen. Previous predictions. I'm so happy I'm wrong though, because there's just so much.
It felt like a Shakespearean epic, either at the end or at the middle of it, depending. At some point in a Shakespearean epic is what it felt like the entire episode. It was a masterclass of acting by our participants, the usual participants, and yeah, it was a great finish. And this series, I mean, it delivered for what we've seen. I think it took a different angle at it. Definitely, it wasn't the same feel as we've had the whole series, but man, was it a worthy ending for us going forward.
And for a series that's had a ton of action in the last couple episodes, whether it was Goliath or running around Nexus events, we kind of get a lot of exposition, a lot of dialogue in the first half of this episode. Miss Minutes makes a pop in for both parties, but really you have Loki and Sylvie with He Who Remains at the Citadel, and you have Renslayer with Mobius back at the TVA. Between these two of these long-term discussions, which were you more gripped by, Casali?
Oh, I mean, everything at the Citadel with He Who Must Remain and Loki. I mean, that's just good storytelling right there. Good MCU, good plot building to what's to come. But I mean, I couldn't eat it up. I mean, I'm not going to go into who we know that is, but just everything from that actor Jonathan Majors, and Loki, just they were vibing, and Sylvie too, all vibing off each other. Great characterization, great world building, even if it was just for 45 minutes. But it was just so good. I couldn't get my eyes off the screen.
I'm pretty sure that they said that Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is going to be the first most horror movie-esque of an MCU, but Miss Minutes, I think, gave us the first appearance because I was literally I'm sitting there I'm barely awake watching it on my couch, and all of a sudden Miss Minutes just pops out.
Bam!
That was terrifying. Miss Minutes, she's got a future in some future horror roles if she wants.
And speaking of terrifying, we got some cinematography, which I knew you liked, Casali. You had kind of that rotating camera when they were walking around the Citadel. Obviously, to kind of disorient the viewer, because that's what Loki and Sylvie were experiencing. They're walking around, and all of a sudden, Jonathan Majors comes out. And now we've been talking all season. Is there going to be a top Loki at this position? Is it going to be Kang the Conqueror? Is it going to be Mephisto? Is it going to be? And for the first couple minutes, I couldn't tell you who this dude was. He was kind of a flamboyant individual. He was kind of outspoken in his nature, but also reserved in the same way. Just an absolute masterclass. I want to know what your guys' first impressions were of this character before we get too much further into He Who Remains.
Well, I mean, let me tell you something. This goes to show that sometimes knowing a lot of what goes on behind the scenes kind of takes away the shock and surprise. As soon as I saw Jonathan Majors show up on screen, I had a feeling what was going on, because if they have mentioned before in newscastings and whatnot of potential Ant-Man 3 villains and what is to come through this character. But I mean, just alone, he was so good. I also do want to go back to what you said about the cinematography. That's what I've been loving too, because I feel like this show has been taking so much inspiration from even the previous Thor movies, aside from all the Marvel movies. When they were doing the rotation, it reminded me so much from that scene from Ragnarok when they were walking in Asgard, and I love that scene so much. But yeah, just like I said, I mean, it kind of takes it away when you kind of look into the behind the scenes stuff. But for me, I didn't care because it was just so good. And again, like I said, I was proven wrong from what we see in this episode and I'm so happy I was, because it was just so good and just honestly a wonderful way to set it up.
Yeah, he was incredible, and that's when I said like the Shakespearean epic vibe. It was him and Tom Hiddleston. I mean, Sophia DiMartino was great too, but it was more those two carrying the conversation and carrying everything, and just it was the perfect kind of introduction for a character that I believe we're going to see plenty of going forward, and just the way that we could see him. I don't like just immediately like controlled the room with two characters who we have been, I mean, Loki, one character who has this whole show because everybody's been so enthralled by the Tom Hiddleston performance as Loki, and just for someone to come on, and obviously, like you said, there's some casting news in there, and I'm sure at least a good majority of people watching it noticed that, and that's why they were so taken aback by him. That's why it was by me as well, and just wanted to hang on every word that was going to come out of his mouth. But it's still it takes two to tango in that kind of scene. How much they had to carry, and have that conversation for us to be as captivated by it was well done. A great bit of acting from you don't usually get to see in the MCU. That's full of after we just got out of Black Widow, that was a little bit different, but a little bit kind of the same scenario. And you don't want to get into crazy spoilers, but with that kind of
get into them. Let's go. We're in the Citadel. We're talking to Immortus. We're talking to He Who Remains. I mean, listen, the whole second third of the last 2/3 of that episode was all, we're setting the table here, folks.
Yeah, I mean, God, it was just, I mean, so I'll say it. I mean, I don't know too much about the comics, but from what I understand, that's Kang. That's our boy Kang that at least he's going to be set up throughout the rest of the potential future in this next phase. And I mean, even that, what I love most about his portrayal just thus far, I mean, we've only seen 30 minutes of him throughout, which I'm sure we're going to get a lot more. But I love too how he didn't feel like he was menacing. He felt like he was just easygoing and on your side and like all that. He didn't have that mantra that Thanos has always brought to us. And so, I mean, I can't wait to see more. And I feel like this was the perfect way to set it up, to be honest with you.
Dare I say this Kang iteration by our guy, Jonathan, had a little bit of Farmer Thanos vibes. He's seen some shit. He's tended to do it for a while. He'd rather somebody else kind of take care of it. And that was the whole purpose of the TVA. TVA is staving off other forms of himself, obviously, as we get into it. Sylvie asked him, what are you so scared of? What are you offering, Loki, the Infinity Gauntlet? What are you offering me, happiness? What are you offering all that for to avoid? And he says, me, which is truly probably one of the more terrifying tone setters for this Kang gentleman.
I just think it was great that he referenced that he just needed a highly efficient bureaucracy to just get this done. Like anything you need, I can't say that word, so I'm not going to keep bureaucratic. Yeah, whatever he's got going on, he made it efficient. That is for sure. I think going back to what we were talking about, just the acting job that we're going to see from this guy, because it was kind of an out there casting for such a big role, right? Like he's not been in a ton of stuff recently, but they clearly see that he probably can play a lot of different characters and play a lot and do a lot of different things. He's a very versatile actor. That's what I'm expecting to see from him, because if we're getting however many different Kangs that are going to show up from all these different universes, you would think that they're going to have the different personalities and stuff that there has been in the comics too. I mean, there's a lot of these Kang iterations have different motivations for what they're doing. And it was really impressive to see him in that mode where he was kind of just chilling. Gave me Willy Wonka vibes. Gave me some Willy Wonka vibes. Trying to give away the whole chocolate factory, but I'm excited to see a much more motivated Kang. What do we see when we start if we see a version that is still like on the come up and not ready to be done with everything. Like there's just so many different iterations that he can take, and from the first glance of seeing him, he's going to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, I mean, again, I hate to liken everything to Thanos, but it's kind of like, talking about the Patriots, I guess, in the NFL. When you're considered the top for a long time, people are going to compare, or the Chiefs now, for where they're at. But the reason I say it is because I think that we're going to see that this other Kang iteration kind of has that fierceness that Thanos does when he attacks in Avengers Endgame, kind of that brashness to fire on his own troops, to kind of do whatever it takes, break out of his own armor if he has to, take down Captain America with Mjolnir, spoiler alert. But I think that really Loki, at the end of the day, when we look at it, it was a great tribute to this character, again, as we're kind of getting down to the finale of the episode. And it was a great table setter for Kang. I think that a lot of people were saying the narrative, I don't know what you guys think, but was that Thanos was going to be kind of tough to beat as a world beater, as a galaxy destroyer wiping out half the universe. And I think they've teed up Kang to potentially, if it's not a certain doctor, do it himself.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't want to start early, but I mean, I just want to talk about this. I mean, let's not even think about, Kang, obviously, big bad. They're setting him up to be the next Thanos or what have you. But the other side of what this phase is going to be, which is something that I've been praying for and I couldn't wait for, and we've gotten teasers from it, from titles and behind the scenes spoilers or whatnot, but it looks like we're getting into the multiverse. And if there was anything to explain it, it was what happened within this little episode. I mean, and I think that brings it up enough, because obviously Kang, they could do so much, and they've already done so much with the array of characters within the comics, but the multiverse, I mean, that's no understatement. They could do so much and will bring so much to the table that I don't think we've seen anything. Like, this isn't going to be like Infinity War and Endgame came out, like that was it. That was the big boys, and we've seen nothing like that. But this is we ain't seen nothing yet. Like the multiverse, this is really where the madness begins.
Seriously, it really only dawned on me. We had obviously known this Doctor Strange title for a year, and we've known, the horror movie vibe that it's going to be. But it really only dawned on me when those branches really started going crazy, when they were talking about the TVA, that like the possibilities are really limitless for the MCU. They can use whatever creativity they want. They can obviously bring in the Fantastic Four. They can bring in the X-Men. It's totally explained now. There's no like question of like, you don't have like, basically in Avengers 2011, they just had Loki kind of like appear out of nowhere, and he's like, I worked really hard to be here. Now they have like a whole universe of storytelling behind why this would actually be happening. And safe to say, that's why Marvel's in the position it's in, and that's why DC is in the position it's in. I didn't mean for that to be a ricochet shot at the end, but I was just thinking about it. Like, I'm more invested in Kang the Conqueror now than like any DC villain. And that's really telling.
Yeah, it's the world building that they've been able to do, right? And they've taken the time to get us to even consider all these different things. I think, going forward, multiverse wise and everything, we made a good point. I was talking about it with my brother after the show. We were kind of spitballing ideas back and forth, and his point was saying that Marvel has always, Marvel Comics, there's never been no talk of the sacred timeline, or like TVA exists, but it's different reasons. There's always been a multiverse. There's been multiversal wars that we've seen. I think in the first episode, we kind of talked about it, and maybe this is the way that they're going, and that it's potentially secret wars. And has a lot to do with Kang and its villains and heroes, going off to this battle world and fighting off against each other. And it's a great Avengers teams and characters that they've started to introduce, but it's so many different endless possibilities. It makes a lot more sense to the Spider-Man rumors of that we're going to get a big Spider-Verse in this upcoming movie. What does it do for Eternals if Kang has been, throughout all of time been causing havoc, and we know that the Eternals are going to be obviously now this is a little sidebar, but we've all watched that Eternals trailer. All that stuff looks like it's in like the first 20 minutes of that movie. Like we don't, like they're not giving us anything that we're going to see. But now knowing that we know about Kang and the effect that he's going to have on this, potentially on this universe and this multiverse, it makes a lot more sense for him to show up. In the comics, there is a version of Kang that goes back to Egyptian times and tries to run it there as a Rama Tut or something along the lines of that. Fantastic Four comes back and stops him. They're in Mesopotamia in Eternals. It just seems like there's so many ways that he can kind of put his imprint on the next offerings that we're seeing from that we already know are coming out and the rumors that we have going forward. But Marvel has always Marvel Comics thrives in the multiverse. They've done so many great stories with different things, and now that it's kind of just getting them back in line with the comics, and it's kind of like it feels like Thanos is going to be just a big prelude to just all this world exploring that they can do, which is nuts to think of how invested we were in the Infinity Saga, but how many different directions they can go now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and not even that too. I mean, Endgame kind of really introduced us to like little hints of the multiverse. I mean, even when they went back to the Battle in New York and Hulk was talking to the Ancient One, and she made a big deal like, "Hey, you could do this. It's all right. I get it. I mean, Doctor Strange literally, wanted you to do this, but you have to return all the stones back, or else there's going to be like a tremor in the Force, and everything's going to get messed up." So, I mean, we've gotten inklings of it throughout. I mean, even on the television side. I mean, even though they kind of debunked Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Within like like the universe that doesn't really go along with movies, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Tackled this a lot within previous seasons. So I just to me it's just this is perfect for them to start bringing into characters, X-Men, Deadpool. I mean, come on, everything. It's just this is where the world building begins, the storytelling, everything. I mean, we already got inklings of it. I don't know if you guys saw it. That it dropped a couple days ago, but they did like a little reaction video of Deadpool and Korg doing the reaction for Ryan Reynolds' new movie Free Guy. And even though that, I guess, who knows if that's MCU canon or whatnot, Deadpool can literally do anything he wants. But I guess that was kind of like a tease of how Deadpool is going to react. Because like he wants to be in the MCU, so it's just, I mean, anything's off, limits. Everything is on the table. They could do whatever they want. And I mean, hell, people are going to buy tickets because, we're in this, and they've gone so long. I think that's what's creative too, is because, for years they set up Thanos and did Infinity War and Endgame, and those were two of the biggest movies ever. So, I mean, you can only go up. And I think with this, the sky's the limit. Like they could do whatever they want and still still have an audience because everyone's going to be intrigued.
The sky might be the limit, Casali, but I'll tell you what's off limits. And this is a spoiler big time. So make sure you're covering your ears if you haven't seen it yet. That is Mobius getting a jet ski. I couldn't believe he couldn't get the jet ski in this night, but I guess maybe that's something for a future iteration of the Marvel Universe. Mobius goes back to the TVA, tries to burn it down. To be honest, pretty lackluster attempt considering that he got all the way to Renslayer's office, and then Renslayer just disarms him in a second. Was that maybe kind of like to show that she's got some moves for future Marvel maybe? But long story short, they lament over their friendship. They have a lamentus over their friendship. And it turns out, they've been friends for eons. Were you kind of let down by this whole situation before Renslayer busted a move?
No, I mean, we've seen her develop throughout the show and realize what she's doing. And I mean, it's still, to me, it still feels like she really is not in control, but she's trying to keep it together just for it not to fall apart. Because, I mean, who knows if she actually knew the true case of like where Loki and Sylvie ended up. Who knows if she knows what Kang is or whatnot. I mean, I'm sure she did because she was kind of hinting at it, at least I think when she was talking to Miss Minutes. But I mean, I think that's really what it is, especially with Mobius coming back. I'm sure she didn't expect that at all. She thought that was it. I don't have to deal with it anymore. I could just wipe the slate clean and, hey, he's back. So I think she's still trying to, get her fist through and try and deal with the situation. But, even if she's given everything she's got, she can't handle it.
I still just don't believe her, like not knowing what was going on the whole time. But also now knowing that there's all these different timelines and everything going forward, that it could have just been Kang's, and that we talked about that in the past too on here, that Kang and Renslayer, there's a love interest. It's really weird in the comics. It's really convoluted and everything. But if he's just pulling like the same woman out of every timeline to work for him because he's, in love with it, like that makes a lot of sense to me. So maybe this version doesn't know what's going on. Miss Minutes did give her some information that she was ready to act on right away, and we never were able to see kind of what that was. So I don't. It didn't feel like the send off we were gonna get with those two, but I don't think that. I think the plans for Mobius and Renslayer are still very much into motion. It was a very, we didn't get as much of them as I thought we would in this series due to the Lady Loki and everything else that was going on. But I feel like these are going to be two characters that are going to be extremely, extremely important to the entire MCU, not even just this Loki show or whatever. I feel like they're going to be showing up a lot more just because they're the ones that know what's going in some timeline somewhere. The real Mobius is out there and knows everything that is going on that Loki was dealing with, right? And so it's just going to be interesting to see how those two manifest in the future MCU projects. Because I feel that there's no way that they're not going to be showing up. They have so much knowledge of what's going on with this huge conflict coming up.
Shout out all the variants tuning in across YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I will say, for Renslayer acting like she was so clueless, she seemed to know that once the timelines started branching, it was time to get out of there pretty quick. She wasn't exactly hanging around to fix anything. She knew it was kind of beyond fixing. And that's when we head down to the ending. Of course, a lot happening in this ending. There's about 4 to 5 parts of it as we break it down. So obviously, Sylvie and Loki, you kind of have the moral debate on whether they do want to kill Immortus, or whether they want to take down the Kang, the iteration of Kang that's in front of them. They kind of debate on it for a little bit. And then, did I miss something, or did the timeline of what Kang knew just end when he dropped that thing and he was like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen next?
I don't know. I mean, I think he was just kind of playing with them. When he kept saying, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe he just wanted, it to happen the way that it did. I mean, I'm sure he knew, not only just looking at Loki, but Sylvie, he knew that, it wasn't going to end good for him, or at least that's what he wanted. I'm sure he wanted to be free. He even said himself that he was, doing this for a while, and he was a lot older than he looked. So
millions of lives or years for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, who knows?
And Micah hit the nail on the head. Sorry, Casali. It was a Willy Wonka vibe when he was talking. It was kind of, he had this extravagant life. He could do whatever he wanted to, but he was just kind of Dunzo. He was Dunzo Italiano on it. And he was saying that the sacred timeline, again, we've been treating this with this whole series, we've been like, what is really happening with the TVA? What's the real TVA's purpose? Because it can't be to just protect this sacred timeline from some kind of branching off. And it turns out that the TVA's purpose was from this, good iteration of a bad guy trying to keep the sacred timeline in one piece. And it was truly incredible how the twist was kind of that it was in plain sight the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he did it. He did it so masterfully too. Like the line where they actually, you might have said it earlier too, where it was like, me, like, who are you afraid of? Like, just knowing himself and knowing what's coming. Like, that was the terrifying thing. And he was, I think you're right, Casali. He was definitely like playing, like the whole time he knew exactly what was going to happen. I think he knew exactly how that entire situation was going to end. And that was the most sinister thing, was at the end, still, if we wanted spoilers here, if you have not, if we're already at this point, you're in spoiler territory or whatever.
What are you doing?
When Sylvie, banishes Loki, he's off to the TVA, or a version of the TVA. And the sinister after Sylvie kills him and he says, see you soon. Like, that was like, we want to talk about more horror movies from Miss Minutes. That was horror movie-esque from Kang, but we know more's coming. Like Michael Myers coming out of the house fire. Like that's what that felt like to me. And it's that more in line means that he knows that was the plan and he's ready to go. He's ready to go a couple more rounds or millions of rounds with this thing.
Seriously, I mean, when let's just say that him saying, see you soon, when he does get taken down from Sylvie, spoiler alert, that line was just as good as the me one because it showed like even in his death thing, it confirmed to Sylvie it wasn't a lie, he wasn't bluffing, that there were clearly worse versions of Kang on the way, and it was kind of stoic in a way. And speaking of stoicism, Loki gets punted through a portal by Sylvie. Talk about losing your boo thing quickly. But with that said, he's back in the TVA, and someone, I read this comment online, put it perfectly. Big time Death Star 2 vibes as he's running around. You got the agents just running around him. They don't even care, like things like that. And that's what we all thought was going on, but not quite the case, Casali.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of just, I'm sure we all just thought, okay, look, he's back. He'll meet up with Morbius and see what's going on. And I mean, he's in the library and he runs into them and was like, they didn't even know who he was. I mean, I guess the multiverse began already. I mean, they had no idea. So this, let alone the fact that, to me, I never even thought that Loki was going to make it out of this. I mean, I love Loki so much, and Tom Hiddleston does a great job, but I thought this was just going to be a one and done thing, and they would play around with Loki just to get extra views and stuff, and start the Disney Plus shows.
You thought Loki was clickbait?
I don't want to say that.
Casali?
Listen, I'm happy that I'm wrong. I'm so happy I'm wrong. Let's face it, Disney Plus, these shows, really wanted to start, what Marvel was going to do. We already know what Star Wars is doing with their stuff with Mandalorian. So, I guess who knows? But I'm so happy to be wrong that he's still sticking around. And
when they were of Mando, when they were walking around the Citadel, that was the most on the edge of my seat I've been since Grogu and Mando got rescued. That's all I gotta say. I won't spoil anything there. But I was waiting. Really, it was a big moment. Is this gonna be Loki? And seriously, I get that even though it was a Kang appearing dude, and I guess if you knew about Jonathan Banks or He Who Remains, you kind of knew it was Kang. I was thinking that could have been a Loki for the first couple of minutes. He was just very flamboyant, but that's the great thing about having multiple iterations of the Kang character, and clearly there will be a lot more to see there. But we get back to the TVA again. So we see the big statue, and this is the craziest thing, the tone in Loki's voice. We've had Loki go head-to-head with Thanos after his ship was exploded. We've had Loki answering to Odin when he was on, about to be, sentenced to life in the cells. He has never sounded more fearful, worried, and scared than when he was talking to Hunter B, that variant of Mobius and Hunter B-15, and he saw that statue.
Yeah, and he's come so far throughout this whole thing. The first appearance we see of him in this show, right, is fresh-eyed 2012 out of Avengers, thinking he's gonna just take over whatever he doesn't even know he clearly had no idea what the TVA was, but he was like, "No, what, I'm got this shit, no worries." And going forward, I guess my question about that new TVA or whatever TVA he is in is that we're going to see going forward is, does each TVA think they're protecting a sacred timeline, or are all these TVA, are these people aware of the multiverse, or is he going to have to be convincing people that a multiverse exists? Because someone came up to me on the street and was like, "Yo, multiverse exists." I'd probably be looking at them like they had 5 heads or something like that. So I'm assuming that Loki, once he explains who he is and tries to just imagine trying to explain that story and then try
Thor is going to be pissed when Loki tells him the story. He's not going to believe him one bit.
Not at all.
He's going to be donezo for sure. What a great series, though. And then, obviously, a post-credits, I wouldn't call it a scene, but it's really just the confirmation. Yep, Loki is going to be back. And this is the big thing, because, obviously, you look at the dates, Quantumania isn't out till 2023. So are we going to get hit with another season of Loki before that, where we could get some more Kang exposure? Either way, there's plenty of Marvel films to expand that. But let's get into it real quick. I'm going to ask you guys 2 things, and I'll kind of put your feet to the fire here, because begun the multiverse has. Thank you, Yoda. With that said, who is right now the Avengers 5 main villain?
Oh, if they even tap into it yet. I mean, there's so much to
You
go.
gotta think it's like
movies.
2.5 to 3.5 years away, right? So you're looking at 2024, 2025.
Best case, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if Kang is still around, I mean, I'm sure he's not going to be, one and done, especially with him rumored to be in Ant-Man 3, if that's not but confirmed.
Confirmed. Hashtag
Confirmed.
confirmed.
Yes, hashtag confirmed. Okay, good. So that could be the case, or maybe Doctor Doom. You know what you guys were saying before, because that is also on the line of what's happening, what's beginning. I mean, I'm not even thinking about Avengers right now. I can't wait just to see, because this isn't going to be the last. Because we know that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is happening. Sam Raimi is behind the camera, which everybody just thought, okay, well, obviously multiverse. Sam Raimi did the early Spider-Mans with Tobey Maguire, so like there's going to be some playing around. But I mean, that's not even coming out. What's coming out before that is Spider-Man 3, No Way Home. That's coming out this December. So if anything, I think we're going to really get to see what's going on maybe in that, because there's been so many rumors of what's happening, that the Into the Spider-Verse live action, everybody's coming back and confirmed, and who knows what's true or not anymore. But I mean, all I know is that Doctor Strange is supposedly playing a big role, like a Tony Stark role within that film. So again, I think that is really what's the case of what's to happen. I mean, I'm not really worried about an Avengers buildup. I can't wait to see what they do with the multiverse. I mean, there's so much that they can do.
Defiant Casali. Don't give me Avengers 5. Just give me the appetizers.
Yeah.
Michael, what about you? Before we get to my second part of the trivia, we wrap up this What's TrainWreck watching.
Avengers 5, I think, will be our boy Kang, or multiple Kangs, or whatever they're going to do. Kang will be heavily involved, I think, in Avengers 5. My thing about, I think, Doctor Doom coming in as the real big bad of this universe that we mentioned earlier is that there's going to be as the Avengers of our Earth that we know on this, that is in the comics, it's Earth 616, and this obviously that's the Earth that we're playing on mostly, and whatever. We're going to come back and focus on that again, right? Like Falcon and Winter Soldier was very much focused on what is happening on Earth because of the events of Thanos, right? And so if all these heroes are going to be dealing with this Kang dude, flying around the universe, multiverse, wherever, and there's going to be a vacuum on the Earth that we've been focusing on. That's how I think we kind of come back into it with a Doctor Doom style thing. If the Fantastic Four are there, he sees that power vacuum. There's nobody better in the comics to fill power vacuums than Doctor Doom. He's done it countless times. And I think that's kind of how we wrap around. And we use Kang as like a bridge to get back to our regular Earth with whatever Avengers team we have assembled by then, to kind of come back and be like, oh shit, this has been going on while we've been, time traveling, having fun maybe not fun, but doing that for however long they do it.
Oh, we've been having fun, most definitely. And we hope you've been having fun watching along on What's TrainWreck watching. Last question, gentlemen. We've completed 3 series: WandaVision, Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki. Which has been your favorite of the 3 so far?
Oof. I mean, I think the best answer, or the easiest answers, I mean, they've all been different in so many ways, that they've brought something different to the table. And you love so much of there's just so much different stuff to grab from each. I mean, Wanda, and just a personal story of the tragedy that she went through with what happened in Infinity War and Endgame, losing Vision to just rebuilding her own family, just as selfish as it could be, to trapping other people. And Falcon and Winter Soldier, I mean, showing how the world has, moved on from after the events of Endgame, and, clearly in a state of like, what's to come, what's going to happen, where are the Avengers? Because, I mean, again, my theory will still stand that no one has no idea who Thanos or the Snap or anything was. So, I mean, just to be in a pickle and be like, wait, how did we disappear for 5 years and come back? Like, that just brings so much to the table. So, and then Loki. I mean, Loki brought the other side of, proving us that, they could bring back a character that has died so many times within the universe and still bring something different to the table and just show something different and unique. I mean, I love time travel stuff. I love multiverse stuff. So I think going forward, I mean, that's why I can't even pick. I mean, they've all brought something different. This could be the easiest answer in the world, but I can't pick because they're all just great. I mean, it's just pure Marvel madness.
I asked him for an Avengers 5 villain. He goes, I don't care about Avengers. Which show would you like the best, Casali? I like them all. I don't need to pick one. All right, Micah, do what Casali couldn't. Don't worry about the pheromones involved in this one, and let's hear a pick here. Come on.
Loki is hands down the best one for me so far. I'm also a sucker for all the world building that they do. I love to look forward as much as anything else, like just because knowing how much they can do with it, that's as much fun for me as actually sitting and watching the movie. And Loki offered that as much. I guess it offered it in a grander scale. So yeah, I'm going with Loki. It's always great to see Marvel explore different universes and explore different places and see in that, like the cinematography of the whole series was just incredible. It was amazing. And I wasn't really as big of a fan of Falcon and Winter Soldier as I think other people were. It wasn't my favorite, even though I loved what they did with the Sam Wilson character, made me care about him a lot more. There was a lot of Falcon jokes going on.
Oh, you love John Walker. You were a big John Walker guy.
Yeah, John Walker, he's something else. I like the Russells, the Russell family. They've got no beef with them.
I agree. They're big in the MCU.
One issue though I do have is both WandaVision and Loki trapping a lot of innocent people against their will. That we've got a lot of kind of people not really getting to do whatever they want to do. Wanda on a much smaller scale, but still Wanda a little bit.
At least the TVA people are just completely like brainwashed, not just like 93% brainwashed like the WandaVision people were. I would say I'll pull a Casali route here. I think WandaVision had the best storyline because it was intriguing and it was like ever like kind of evolving throughout. I thought Falcon and Winter Soldier had the best action. I definitely liked the fight between the two of them and John Walker. I think it was in episode 4 or 5 in the warehouse. It was sick. And I think that Loki was the best show overall. It had a mixture of both action, good storylines, intrigue. You didn't know what was going to happen next. And it goes back to that first episode. Owen Wilson, we were never watching Owen Wilson this. We were watching Mobius. And that's what makes it all the more heartbreaking. when he doesn't recognize Loki at the end of the series. We'll see. Gentlemen, any last thoughts?
I mean, again, there's just so much to look forward to now. I mean, the multiverse has begun. I mean, we have no idea what to expect, and I just can't wait. I can't wait for more. I mean, I can't wait. I'm also still excited for. I know we got Shang-Chi coming out. That's at least the next big movie.
And Shang-Chi is the character?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's going to be an Avenger, right?
Yeah, probably.
That's all I need to hear. That's all I need to hear. If you're an Avenger,
well, not even that. I mean, are we going to get to actually meet the real Mandarin? And it's not going to be Ben Kingsley? I mean, that would be pretty cool to see too. Even though I'm a big Iron Man 3 fan and I thought that twist was hilarious. Listen, that's my opinion, but I'll stick with it. But I mean, again, in that, and I mean, this big. I mean, they're building Spider-Man 3 up like no end. So I'm really excited to see what that is, and obviously now with what happened within Loki, I mean, they can do whatever the hell they want if they're really bringing back. Because rumor says that apparently we're getting more Spider-Man, not just Tom Holland. So. If that's the case, I mean, I'm all for it. That would be just amazing. And, and then to see what's to come, I mean, I can't wait for Multiverse of Madness. I mean, I'm still pushing for Love and Thunder. I can't wait for that because Taika is just a god. And that's just, there's just so much to look forward to. I mean, the MCU has never let me down and it's always a good time. And now they proved, I mean, within these 3 shows, they proved that they could have a television show and it'll still bring the cinematic, view right to your living room. I mean, I think that is just, everything. They could do whatever they want, whether it's a Disney Plus show or a movie. I mean, there's nothing like going to a theater and seeing these movies. But, I mean, there's so much room for storytelling, and these shows have shown that, that's why I think it's also good that they did Loki within a story. It wouldn't have worked within a movie. The same with WandaVision. Same with Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think that's why these shows are shows and not, broken down into a 2.5 hour movie. So I think the sky's the limit. I'll still stick to that. And there's just so much more. I can't wait.
I think that Kang, we're going to see our boy Kang in his multiple different versions in maybe not Shang-Chi. Maybe they'll give him the proper debut and just let him kind of exist and do whatever he is. But I think in the next 3 movies after that, at least, he will be appearing, and we're going to get a lot more built on to what he's kind of been up to, because all Eternals I still think are going to deal with multiverse and whatever. Like the Eternals, like in the trailer, the one piece at the end is, or whatever, whoever is doing the voiceover, I think Angelina Jolie, she's like, we've never interfered before until now. Yeah. And what event do we know just happened now that would make
I'm
Eternal
sure
beings, come up? Like that's I think it was a great scene setting for what we're gonna get going forward. And I'm very excited to see our boy Kang, causing some madness all over the place. Also, really, I do want to give more credit though to WandaVision and what we're gonna see coming out of that, because I think that we're gonna get a lot. Loki, I'm pretty sure, is confirmed to appear now in Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah,
I thought I heard
that too.
Today, or reading up on this too. So obviously, there's going to be some sort of connection there. But Wanda has untapped potential. We have not seen anything that she's capable of. Has some Kang conflicts in the comics as well.
Is WandaVision going to go Wanda villain in the Multiverse of Madness?
I don't think she's going to be a nice girl.
Yeah, it's practicing in that cabin for sure. But hey, whether you're in a cabin, whether you're watching along on the road, or whether you're listening in, big thank you for tuning in to What's TrainWreck Watching. Casali, we're gonna review Micah's shirt there at Toon Squad.
This weekend Space Jam comes out. I am excited for that. Talk about another multiverse. It looks like there's a lot of potential.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, aren't they gonna be using Game of Thrones and shit?
Everything Warner Brothers.
Everything Warner Brothers is online. Okay, so very interesting to see. I think we might be breaking that one down. So stay tuned, folks, because here at What's TrainWreck Watching, it might be about that next movie, it might be about that next episode, but right now with this one, it's about next season.
Oh, there we go.
Bye.